Again, welcome everybody. Welcome to this, our first conference. I'm going to keep this short because we're running a tight ship today. So let me get on. What's this frozen? What's going on here? There we go. So, leftism versus humanity. We are, I believe, at a turning point in history. I see a glimmer, a tiny wee glimmer of the end of socialism. So what is socialism? At its core, it's a religion of theft, and its God is the state. So what's the state? Well, the state is a murderous organised criminal gang, aided and abetted by an intellectual bodyguard that get their cut by masking this criminality. My hero, Murray Rothbard, he was pessimistic in the short term. He thought socialism would come to dominate the world, but he was equally optimistic in the long term. When the masses suffer poverty, chaos and misery, as we see in a place now like Venezuela, it will eventually get swept away. Socialism will get swept away. But now we're here in Rothbard's long term, sort of a bit like Keynes's long term. Should we be pessimistic or optimistic? This morning I want to talk about why I think I can see the possible tiny end of socialism, and how we in this room, this tiny little room, can accelerate this process in whatever way we possibly can. To do it, I'm going to analyse what makes socialism so appealing, despite its utter stupidity, and then we can weaponise maybe some of these ideas to put our boot onto the neck of socialism, which would be nice, wouldn't it? So what do I see in the world? On one hand, we've got Antifa, we've got the millennial snowflakes, we've got Merkel's migrant millions, and we've got Pope Francis here urging us to take more millions of these people into Europe. You'll notice he's not bedding them down in the Sistine Chapel, so it's kind of one rule for us, one rule for the rest. Maybe he thinks that being a socialist, he thinks Marxism is coming to its conclusion. But I see something else. I see a resistance. I see a resistance, and I think socialism is just peaking and just beginning to wither away, and I just want to help kick it down faster. It keeps failing everywhere. Yes, socialists always have excuses. It was the wrong people, it was the wrong time, there were saboteurs, there were enemies, there were people like us around. But the list of failure goes on and on. Soviet Union, we have, what else? We have National Socialism, total failure, North Korea, Cuba, Cambodia, Venezuela. The death roll never ends, and wherever they think they're building paradise, and every time they get a chance to build something, they build hell. In every country they've ever been let loose in. So we get to the greatest excuse of all. Only a single world state without any property borders at all is the only way we can have socialism. So there'll be nowhere left to hide for people like us. We can't go to Switzerland, we can't hide in Singapore, Hong Kong, any of these places. Yes, this perfect single world socialist state with us removed, there will be a few broken eggs, because you can't make an omelette without a few broken eggs. We know what's going to actually happen. It was described in The Road to Serfdom by Hayek. What we'll end up with is a worldwide gulag. It won't need any fences because there's nowhere to go to, because we're trapped on the earth. But it'll be much worse than Korea or the Soviet Union or East Germany or any of these other terrible places. It will just be a world of murderous chaos. As we can see in things like, one of my favourite movies, Idiocracy, we see it in Henry Hazlitt's book as well, Time Will Run Back. Situations are described in the future where this idiocratic society is created, and then intelligence and free markets bring it back to some kind of normality. And where do I see this resistance? I see it with Brexit, turning against the European Union. I see it with Mr. Trump. I see it with the Catalonia in Spain and Poland. I think there's a few Polish people here today. In Poland, people are resisting Merkel's migrant millions, are saying no, we don't want these people here, and they're not coming here. And if we have to leave the European Union to do it, fantastic. Even in the US, we've got Trump, who is a strange person, but he has ripped up the Paris Climate Accord, which is fantastic, because that was the main vein into ruling the world from a single point. It was using ecomentalism. We've got Bitcoin as well, so we've got Mr. Kinsella here as an expert on Bitcoin. That could be really significant. We could be breaking the power of the central banks. And of course the Soviet Union did fall. I think we actually will get to this fantastic world of much, much smaller states and micro-states. But if we sit back and just let the state roll over us, and then hope that in 100 years it will be so chaotic that time will run back and we'll get free markets, I think we're living in a world of false illusions. I think once bureaucrats get hold of a world single state, they would rather blow the world up with nuclear weapons than give it back to us. They won't want freedom to come from the ruins of their own malevolence. So we must avoid this risk of just sitting back and letting them do a terrible thing and then we roll it back later. So, how do we attack socialism? Let's figure out why it's so attractive. One of the main reasons it's attractive, I think, is described in Hayek's Fatal Conceit. In there he talks about, his editor maybe, let's not go into that, who actually wrote this book. But he says that humanity was, back in the Stone Age, all of us were in small groups, small, very genetically related groups, maybe 50 to 500 people at most. So we're all closely related, and we all gather and hunt together, and we share everything together. We have equality and identity of the group. And this is what socialism is trying to go back to. We had two main concepts in our minds. We had the tribe, and we had other people. So there's two things: the tribe, us, me, and everyone else, the others, the White Walkers, whatever you want to call them, the enemy, everyone else. If we did come across other people, we would just basically want to take their stuff. We would kill other people if we could, because other people, let's say you're another person, my group's me and Keir and Sean, you're someone else, I can kill you and take your stuff, because it doesn't matter. I can't kill Sean or Keir because they're in my group, and that breaks natural law and there's murder and stuff, and that's bad. But you, no problem. Take you out, grab your stuff and run away. Men might fight each other in love duels, maybe, but that would be it within the tribe. So this basic genetics gives us the basic racism of socialism. Now we see the most obvious socialist racists are the National Socialists and the Fascist Socialists, but even in Karl Marx we see a lot of anti-Semitism, self-loathing, of course, him mostly being Jewish himself, same as Adolf Hitler as well. They're driven by their self-loathing. In all primitive socialist cultures around the world, we also see corruption as a way of life. Steal everything you can and then give it to the family, give it to the tribe. So again, it's the tribe and it's everybody else. And we have armies as well, where I can't, so if you're an officer in the army and I don't salute you, sir, I get hung. But you'll order me to go kill 1 million people in a city because they're in the way in the Middle Ages. And most socialists, of course, are obsessing about racism night and day. It's all they think about, maybe sexism as well. Racism, you're a racist, he's a racist, racism, racism, racism. I saw a couple of weeks ago, I saw a black and white tyre cover on a car being accused of being racist. What? What's going on with these people? I think it's self-reflection. This is representing the inner chimpanzee of socialism. Most socialists have an inner chimpanzee, and they want to give full rein to the feelings of that inner chimpanzee. They accuse us of being racist because they themselves are inside racist and full of hate for other groups. They call us racist. We're not racist. We're seekers after truth. We do wish to live in communities of our own choosing. That's fine. But then we believe every man and woman on God's earth has the right to have free association as well, not just our group. To me, we believe in 8 billion individuals. It's the socialists who believe in collective groups. They are the racists, not us. Now, let's get back to the Stone Age then. It was glorious. This is the inner chimpanzee coming out. back in the Stone Age, we did have a winnowing. We had glaciations. Glaciations would sweep over the Earth every few 100,000 years, wipe out 99% of the people. The 1% of the most intelligent people left in the warm interglacial, we're in an interglacial now, by the way, would then repopulate the Earth, and then another glaciation would come, kill off the 99% of the least intelligent. The most intelligent would survive. Interglacial, another spread. So this winnowing went on many, many times and ended up with intelligent people, us, who can speak and think. These more intelligent people evolved, and they extended intra-tribal law. So I can't kill Sean and I can't kill Keir, and now we're going to make it inter-tribal law. I can't kill you either. We invented religions and things to enforce these rules. Do not murder, do not steal, do not be envious, do not want other people's things. Now, socialists would never steal phones at their own conferences, because that would be intra-tribal, but they want to steal our phones, don't they? You've got my phone now. Why have you got my phone? So they want to steal ours because we're others, we're other people. But these more intelligent people who arose from the Ice Age glaciations developed trading rather than stealing, the economic means rather than the political means. The inner chimpanzee, though, hates this control of not taking other people's stuff, not being envious, not being able to kill someone because they annoy you. We've seen how aggressive Antifa groups have been in the last few years. Now, raw tribalism like this, the Stone Age raw tribalism, is the kind of thing that people like Mussolini used, and other fascist socialists. But I love our group because we're not like that. Because in this room we've got, where is she? We've got Brazilians, we've got English people, we've even got some Americans, we've got some Germans, we've got an Austrian. I know there's an Austrian in there somewhere, in both senses of the word. But the best thing, of course, is that one of those fantastic Americans, thank you very much, brought me this magnificent gift. Brilliant. But the devil of socialism does stand constantly at everybody's shoulder, even though we're magnificent. The devil is always there at our shoulders. We see things, we might want to take them. It beguiles us, it entices us, it leads us into temptation. With socialism, socialists, they give in to the devil. They want to steal other people's stuff. Marx as well. Coming back to Marx, why did he create Marxism? He was a terrible poet. He wanted an undeserved reward for no talent. He wanted to be able to write poetry, terrible poetry, and be paid for it. No one was going to pay him for this terrible poetry, so he created this communist world to get rid of his own alienation about being such a terrible poet. We see the same thing with Mr. Adolf Hitler, a terrible painter who couldn't get into art school in Vienna. He generated an evil socialist world in order to overcome that artistic fantasy. I mean, look how bad this stuff is. Now, myself, I would love to be a great rock and roll star. The market has denied me this deserved accolade. It's given it to the Rolling Stones and Mark Knopfler and all sorts of other people. I'm showing my age, I suppose, there. Rather than me. Damn the free market! That's what I say. But if I want civilization, I have to put up with not being $1 million rock star. I have to live within my talents that I've worked on and God gave me. All of us must do that. If we value civilization, we must work within our abilities, not want to take other people's stuff, take other people's glory. Socialism, though, wants to drag us back in time. It's always trying to go back to that age where we could have everything. But if we do go back to this Stone Age, we're going to end up with a world population that isn't going to be 8 billion, it's going to be about 100 million. That's all socialism could support, once the chaos comes in of proper full socialism. Now, a lot of eco-socialists, of course, delight in that. They think it's great that will bring in all these UN rules to kill the economies of the world, take us down to 100 million, wipe out 7.9 billion people. Brilliant, that's good for Mother Earth. They actually like this Schadenfreude. So why else is socialism attractive? Kunert Ledeen, in his brilliant book, Leftism, he gives us some other clues. Luther, the Reformation starting in Saxony in Germany, was against, well, Kühnert-Ledin says, the rationality of the Renaissance. And there's this deep appeal of monasticism within society. People want to live in cells like ants, be given by their betters and what they need and what they're told they need, do what they're told they should do, and get this iron rice bowl in return. Oh, and die for the state if and when the state desires it. A lot of people want that cog in the machine, living like a monk in a cell kind of lifestyle. We also, in socialism, and Lenin used this particularly, we get a promise of sexual debasement. And again, it makes it attractive. So free love in Spain in the 1930s with some of the socialist governments in Spain, compulsory promiscuity. So Keir, come to my room later, okay? You have to, otherwise you'll be breaking the law. Compulsory abortions in China, the one-child rule, to kind of have this promise of sexual debasement. And in Europe now we've got the divorce, welfare and abortion culture, which has withered the populations of Europe. And now these people are being replaced by Commissar Merkel and other DDR commissars with culturally dissimilar migrant millions to replace the failure of socialism, leading to a declining population in Europe. Madness. And then there's this cargo cult of other people's free stuff. Now we saw with the US, they have a celebration of Thanksgiving. Before Thanksgiving, everyone in these Puritan societies had to chip in and hand everything over because they produced nothing. It's only when they said, okay, we're all going to die this year, everyone can keep their own stuff, and suddenly there was bounty and plenty. And the Americans still celebrate that today, which is fantastic. Socialism is a religion of theft. Evildoers are those who produce wealth. The virtuous are those who steal and consume. Now, of course, once all the free stuff runs out, like it has in Venezuela, we get another problem. But socialists can't think that far because they can only think 10 minutes at a time. Massive high time preferences. That's 10 minutes or 15 minutes away, too far away. As the Luther's Reformation spread in Europe, it came to England, unfortunately, in the guise of the Puritans, who murdered a king of England. But fortunately for us, the Puritans became really hated and ostracised, especially once they banned Christmas. You know, banning Christmas, banning plays. So they had to go to the US to get away from the wrath of the people in England. Unfortunately, they all went to Massachusetts, where they exist to this day in government centre in Boston, making the life of the people in Massachusetts miserable. We always get these links between religion and socialism. So we have Joseph Yugashvili there, a seminarian in the Russian Orthodox Church, becomes the monster Stalin. Always religion, socialism, you see tied together. We always get these same combinations then: free theft, free sex, free violence over others, and most of all, the free celebration of resentment. Other people doing better than me, it must be the capitalist system's fault, and envy. It's a powerful mix. It's a very, very attractive mix. They're also good at stealing all of our words. They've stolen liberalism. They've stolen freedom even. They've stolen freedom. All they've left us with is libertarian, which is a word I detest. I thought, ugly, ugly, ugly word. And a scary anarcho-capitalist. I go up to young children in the street and say, I'm an anarcho-capitalist, and they go, ooh! It's frightening, I'm an anarcho-capitalist. Ooh. I really want to be a classical liberal, but in England that means you're a socialist who likes Beethoven. Socialism as well, it's always changing the story all the time, and that's because of cognitive dissonance. So, Marxism comes out with labour theory of value, which gives you free stuff. You know, you take away the profit of the entrepreneur, give it to the people, great, let's all be Marxists. But that's smashed by Bohm Bauwerk with, let's put a picture of his book up. Capital and Interest, aided and abetted by Mises with economic calculation in the socialist Commonwealth. Those two books smashed the labour theory of value. They proved why socialism won't work on an economic basis. What did the socialists do with this? Did they go, oh no, socialism doesn't work, let's all become classical liberals? Well, I'd love to be a classical liberal. No, they just changed everything again. They changed everything with this guy called Gramsci. He threw away Marxism, labour theory of value, and invented cultural Marxism. In cultural Marxism, whenever anyone insults socialism, you take it out of the language. You take the insults out of the language with political correctness. You make the bad things that hurt socialism unsayable. You cannot say these things. I cannot say, for instance, some men are better than other men. I can't say men are different from women. I can't say some people deserve more because they work harder or they're more entrepreneurial or they're just more lucky. Those things are taken out of the language. Gramsci also ordered socialists to invade schools and become school teachers. So that from the 1930s, 40s onwards, they invaded all these newly created state schools and poisoned the minds of children, a bit like Pink Floyd's A Brick in the Wall. But even given Gramsci's amazing efforts to change socialism's skew away from the Marxist economics, the blood was still leaking under the Iron Curtain. So we saw with books like Solzhenitsyn's book here and many others that socialism was evil. It was killing millions of people all over the world. This created more cognitive dissonance. So again, did the left just give up in the 1960s, 70s and say, oh no, socialism is evil, sorry, we recognise ourselves being stupid, let's all give it up and become classical liberals? No, of course they didn't. They had this guy, Herbert Marcuse, a German, went to the United States, created the New Left. Always it's these Germans. Always. The old socialist gods had failed, Gramsci had failed, Marx had failed. He particularly stole the word freedom. If ever you hear a socialist say freedom from poverty, freedom from capitalist slavery, it's from Marcuse. The New Left also drowned itself in a sea of sexual depravity. You see people like this today who, would you go in the street dressed like this even for £1,000 charity bet? Oh.
Who do I have to pay the £1,000?
That would be quite a photograph, wouldn't it? I've still got my phone, it's terrible. So they're depraved, the New Left degenerated socialism, rampant promiscuity, heavy drug use, a hatred of consumerism. Though, of course, some snowflakes, they do still like some consumer items, don't they? They love phones, they love cheap holidays in Thailand. There's a few things they do like that are produced by the market, but most things are evil, especially BMWs and terrible things like that. But despite what they did, is they turned the tie-wearing Trotskyite, who you could have a reasonable-ish discussion with in a bar. You might know some leftist friends and you can actually talk to them. They probably look like this. They turned them into these people. Obviously, we've all seen worse photos than this in the last few weeks. Look at the state of them. That's what the New Left has created, a dishevelled, degenerate mess. It gives us punk rock, it gives us vandalism, it gives us graffiti, it gives everyone's covered in tattoos now. That's from the New Left. A Western culture filled with drugs and pornography. A new leftist is also likely to be a hero worshipper of this man, the mass murderer, racist Che Guevara. And they all want a world state, a single world state. So how are they going to get this? They're going to try to increase the UN's power using the obvious stupid lies of global warming as a lever. And they're going to shout people like us down, stop us. They'll probably be arrested after this today by somebody. They don't like hearing the truth about global warming being utter nonsense and that we're living in an interglacial. Goodness gracious, this was normal education in the 1900s when I was growing up. They also want to get rid of what they call fake news. This man here, Mr. Macron, in Paris, wants to get rid of. He's going to have a government body that's going to authorise news. I wonder if he's going to authorise the fact he spends €20,000 a month of other people's money on makeup. No, he's not going to do that, is he? He's going to ban that. First of all, that's obviously false. This isn't a naked emperor. This one's covered in lots of foundation. So the ladder to global socialism consists of lies, violence, and chaos. Its enemies are us, truth, peace, and order. the leftists want to destroy humanity. They want to destroy us in particular. We've got to keep exposing their lies. We've got to keep laughing at them, and that's serious, by the way. We've got to keep laughing at them. It will make their heads explode from cognitive dissonance. It will certainly lose them their sympathisers. If not, I think most socialists are too far gone. There's no point trying to save them. They're too far gone. Unless they want to come to our side. We can help them then, but don't try and persuade a socialist to not become one. It's impossible. They've lost their minds. Now, as we've seen recently with Jordan Peterson, we must keep speaking truth to power. It's wrecking them. It's making their heads explode. That poor woman. Oh, I had bacon and eggs today. Does that mean you hate vegans? So how do we destroy socialism? How do we stop it creating this hell on earth? How do we become as good as this man here? My new era. Well, I could just say, in the words of the infamous T-shirt, privatise everything. Oh, by the way, don't wear this in England. I've got one of these. I sometimes wear it in England. Oh, the looks of hatred you get. Oh, my God. Oh, we can see them shaking with anger. Most people in this country have socialist delusion, right? They can be denied treatment after 5 hours of queuing in the NHS, be told to wait 2 years for a minor operation. If that was the case for a dog, it would be called cruelty to animals. And yet they'll still say they love the NHS. What's wrong with these people? That's destroying the country through taxation and money printing and borrowing to fund the whole stupid black hole of mess. So here's my 10-part list, my anti-communist manifesto. The 10th one is the most important, but I thought I'd throw the rest in just because it's a nice list from the Communist Manifesto. So 1, encourage the sale of private land, government land, and make it private, particularly in the United States. Most of the Western United States is government-owned, isn't it? Try and get that privatised. 2, in the apocryphal words of Stefan Kinsella, where is he? There he is. Get our goddamn taxes lowered in whatever way we can, hassling politicians, do whatever we can. Every penny the government doesn't get is a penny not wasted. 3, agitate to get inheritance taxes removed. 4, fight for the abolition of all non-crimes. If some fabulously wealthy lady wants to make me a gigolo, 1, who can blame her? 2, I need an Aston Martin really badly. 5, encourage the rise of cryptocurrencies and the private production of any money, gold, silver, I don't care what it is, as long as it's not state-owned fiat nonsense. 6, hammer on the state to get rid of all subsidies for everything, particularly wealthy people, as we have in this country with farmland. Will pay you £100,000 a year not to farm that field. What's going on there? Fight to abolish all state businesses. For example, here in the UK, did you know Channel 4 is directly government owned and ran by the Department of Culture and Media? Directly. Amazing. No one knows except us in here. Everyone else thinks it's private. And of course, get rid of those buggers broadcasting communism, the BBC. Oh, I will cheer that day. I'm so loud. What have I got to? Remove all state licensing of occupations, including and especially doctors and lawyers, but even nail salons get licensed. We need to rip away that power, because if I want bad nails, let me have bad nails. It's my fault. Let the market work. 9, get rid of all state planning laws, which gives them tremendous power. The State and Town and Country Planning Act in this country in the 1940s was a total disaster. 10, most importantly, eliminate the state from those day prison propaganda farms known as state schools. To this end, encourage homeschooling and any other way of getting the state out of our children's minds. Last page, hooray. Now, the greatest tool to get all 10 of these in one hit is secession. A government halved, a state halved, is the power of that government quartered. It's like a kind of inverse gravitational rule. All of us here can do something. The Brits, we can encourage Brexit, keep it hammering at that thing. What else can we do? The Spaniards here, they can push Catalonia seceding. The US people, hammer on Texas, New Hampshire, Alaska, maybe even California seceding. Wouldn't that be fantastic? The French can... Too far gone. Too far gone. Now, the necessary destruction of socialism, otherwise they will blow the world up. The necessary destruction of socialism might be beyond my lifetime, it might happen in my lifetime, but worse things have happened at sea, and what better thing in life can there be than to try to bring civilization, property and freedom back to the world? Even if we gallantly fail, isn't it worth trying? Oh, and in one, to get this world back that we once nearly had. And one final secessionary word. Let's go for a free Henley on Thames. I'm willing to be its life president. Thank you very much.